All right, Joseph, we got a good one today.
All right.
All right.
What we got, Chris? What we got?
I conducted an analysis of Rotten Tomatoes movie reviews.
Oh shit. Okay.
Welcome to Psych Papers, a podcast of bad content where we discuss psychology studies and conduct our own follow-up research. I'm Chris Cole. I have a PhD in psychology, and this is Joseph Taharan.
I'm just his friend.
In today's episode, we're going to discuss the analysis of Rotten Tomatoes movies reviews. So we're going to discuss the top-rated movies of all times, which movies people talked about the most, which movies the audiences loved but critics hated, which movies the audience hated but critics loved. How do movie ratings differ by genre, content rating, and release year, and do movies get better or worse over time? I found a dataset online of 1,130,000 reviews from over 17,000 movies from 1914 to 2020.
Okay.
So
why not the
data set?
Why not the last 3 years?
Because that's the data set I found. It was somebody put it together online and scraped the data, and they didn't have the most recent data. I'm sorry. So it doesn't have the most recent movies.
They couldn't bother doing the last 3 years? Come on, man.
I don't know.
The episode's really bunk. You only have almost a century's worth of reviews.
I figure there's 106 years worth of movies, 17,000 movies, over 1 million reviews. I figure that's the last couple of years. We're fine. All right. I'm sorry, Avatar 2 couldn't make it, Joseph.
Shit, man. It's my favorite movie, dude.
All right. So to start off, we're going to talk about the highest rated movies ever.
Okay.
So I filtered them so that the movies had to have at least 100 critics reviews and 1,000 audience reviews, just to make sure that we didn't get these movies with like a tiny amount of reviews. So by the audience, the highest rated movies were Just Mercy, Cidade de Deus, or City of God, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, The Art of Racing in the Rain. That was for audience. The critics' highest rated movies were Paddington 2.
Paddington 2? The Bear?
The Bear. The sequel.
That was the highest movie. A sequel movie, nonetheless.
Critics. Yeah. Critics loved Paddington 2.
Not even the audience. The critics loved this. Okay. Well, now I know what I'm doing after this.
It's a social commentary on like the morality of society. It's about a bear. I actually haven't seen it, so I don't know much about it. It might be an amazing movie. I don't know. For critics, also Man on Wire, Toy Story 2, and Leave No Trace.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep. All of these scored at either a 100 or 99%.
And this is with a good sample size for each one, right?
They had to have at least 100 critics reviews and at least 1,000 audience reviews.
Gotcha.
And I found out something about the Rotten Tomatoes percentage, like what that actually means. So if something is like a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, that means 90% of people gave it a positive rating, which is 3.5 stars and up.
Interesting. Okay. Because like different critics have different rating skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what that means, you could have a movie where every single person that rated it gave it 4 stars, and it would still get a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, even though every single person gave it 4 stars. But it means 100% of the people liked the movie. And to like a movie, it's got to be 3.5 stars. That's their criteria. Okay, so now we're going to go on to movies that audiences loved, but critics hated.
The critics hate it.
All right, and again, I filtered, they had to have at least 100 critic reviews and 1,000 audience reviews, just because there are a ton of small movies that nobody knows that we wanted to filter out. Okay, so audiences loved this movie, but critics hated this movie. Doolittle, 2020 version.
Is that the one with the dude from Iron Man? Who wasn't
Robert Downey Jr.?
Robert Downey Jr. Wasn't he in that one?
Yeah, the original was Eddie Murphy, I think, in Dr. Doolittle. That was the one like
well that was also
in the 90s
remake,
or 2000s.
2000s, I think.
Yeah, and then Doolittle, the 2020 version. Audiences loved it with a 76%. Critics hated it with a 15%. And then Second place was Gemini Man, the one with Will Smith, and I believe his son was in it, Jaden. And then Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, Venom, Warcraft, The Kitchen, Men in Black International, Dark Phoenix, Godzilla, King of Monsters, and King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. So all these movie audiences loved,
Interesting.
critics hated.
The audience rating for Maleficent is 95.
Mm-hmm.
And critics rated it 39. That's such a big disparity, too.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Do you know what we're going on to next?
Movies that critics love but audience hated.
Exactly. All right. So audiences hated these movies, but critics loved Star Wars: The Last Jedi. 2017.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised by that.
Yep. Star Wars: The Last Jedi got an audience rating of 43%. Critics gave it a 90%. Followed by that was Ad Astra, It Comes at Night, Hail Caesar, High Life, Uncut Gems, Love and Friendship, The Informant, Noah, and Blockers.
Interesting. More high, like a more riskier artistic venture, some might say.
Mhm.
Uncut Gems, I'm very surprised that I got a low audience rating. We saw that movie together, I think, in theaters. I really liked that movie.
Yeah, I remember I was stressed out the entire movie. I'm just like, God damn, make one good decision. Oh my God. I was like, I thought it was a good movie, but I was just like, my heart rate, my like cortisol, my stress was just up at like max the whole movie.
Really? I
really was like,
Yeah.
I need to like catch a breath, like, and they just never let you like
That's
have
valid,
a moment
yeah.
of solace, you know?
That's valid. That's valid. I got that.
Yeah. I was like, oh, finally, he just got like this money. He'll be good now. And then he's like, all right, time to gamble it again. I'm like, no, you have kids. I think he has kids. Yeah, he does.
I forget.
All right. What do you think is the difference between how a critic versus an audience member like reviews or evaluates a movie?
Yeah, I think critics probably have like a wider criteria than audience members. I feel like audience members is pretty much like, did I enjoy it or not? Was this entertaining? And then critics are probably looking at like, not only was it entertaining, but does it have artistic merit? Like, they're looking at the shot selection. They're probably looking at the acting, a little bit more critical and more layered than the audience. I would presume. Not to say audience members don't have that. I just feel like most audience members are just gonna be like, I like it or didn't like it. Could be a little bit more binary.
Yeah. A lot of audience members might not like explicitly notice some certain like filming techniques that a critic might pick up on. All right. I analyzed what the most common movie genres are. Do you have any guesses on what the most common movie genre is?
Most common. Let's say action adventure. Survey says.
Nope. It was drama.
Oh.
Almost 11% of all movies were dramas.
Interesting.
And then second, we had 7% of movies being comedy. And then in third place with about 5% of movies being comedy dramas. And then drama, mystery, and suspense. Fifth, we had art house and international dramas. Then documentaries, special interest. Then documentaries. Then horror, action and adventure / drama. And in last place with 2% of all movies is horror, mystery, and suspense.
Now, in retrospect, my answer was dog shit because that would have implied that every movie comes out every month is an action movie. And this is more.
Yep.
That's a fucking Bruce Willis Tom Cruise movie. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All really high budget action movies. Yeah, those are hard to make.
Yeah. Those don't come very often.
So you can think of for dramas, you can think of like The Godfather, comedy like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and then like a comedy drama or a dramedy is like The Truman Show. And then I know these don't add up to 100. That's because the rest of the movies were just like different mixes of genres.
Yeah, it looks like it gets further subdivided or gets more genre blended towards the end.
Yep. If comedy is the second most common movie genre, then why is it 8th place when it comes to movie ratings? So out of the top 10 genres, so how do movie ratings differ by genre? And I took the median audience ratings. And in the top place, so for median audience ratings, were documentaries. Then second place, we have documentaries of special interest. Then art house and international drama. then drama, action and adventure dramas, comedy dramas, drama and mystery and suspense, and then comedy in 8th place, and then horror, mystery and suspense in last. So the median audience ratings for horror was 39%, and for horror, mystery and suspense also 39%. So
Interesting.
horrors generally don't do well. Comedies also generally don't do well in
terms
terms
of
of audience ratings.
Ratings, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, those Adam Sandler movies really dragged the percentage down, huh? Like all those shitty movies he's been releasing on, on Netflix.
Yeah. Out of the 17,000 movies in the data set, all those Adam Sandler movies dragged it down.
Man, the percentage is those outliers, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think comedy is rated lower than other types of genres, just because I feel like people don't think of comedies as like artistic or deep or complex.
Yeah.
But then again, this is audience ratings, and we were just talking about how audiences are just like, was I entertained or not? You know.
Yeah.
But maybe comedy is more subjective. Documentaries are like, was this informative and, like interesting? All right. Now we're gonna go with the top audience rated movies by genre. So within each genre, what was the top rated movie? And again, had to have at least 100 critic reviews and 1,000 audience reviews. So for dramas, it was Just Mercy with a 99%. For comedy, it was The Big Lebowski with a 93%. Comedy drama, it was Fight Club with a 96%.
Fight Club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Drama, mystery, and suspense was LA Confidential. Art house and international drama was The Lives of Others. Documentary special interest was The Fog of War, 11 Lessons. For documentaries, it was The Cove. Horror, it was The Conjuring 2 with 81%. Action and adventure drama was The Peanut Butter Falcon. And for horror, mystery, and suspense, it was The Silence of the Lambs with 95%.
Fucking Fight Club, man. I think, isn't Fight Club that movie you discover when you're 16 and you're like, dude, this is what, fuck society, dude. This movie's gonna define.
I need to be like Tyler Durden. I'm gonna wake up. Is that his name? I think that's his name.
I'm gonna fucking be a ripped Brad Pitt, dog. I'm gonna be 150 pounds and fucking packing heat.
I want to beat up my friends.
God, I can't imagine how many guy friend groups started a Fight Club as a result of watching it just for a short period of time. Just until they realize like this is not really that fun, guys. This is not fighting each other. Man, that's not it. That's not the vibe.
Let's just go play Halo.
Let's go play Halo and continue getting rejected by women.
Yeah. All right, Joseph.
What's up?
The next thing we're looking at is how do the ratings differ by genre between audiences and critics?
Ooh, okay.
All right. Okay. So this is again median ratings, and I'll give you. Let's play a little game. Out of the top 10 genres that we're looking at right now,
we're gonna play a little game, Joseph.
Yes. Only two genres. Two genres had it where the audience rating was higher than the critics rating. So audiences liked it more. Every single other genre, critics liked this genre more. Two genres, audiences loved, critics did not like. Can you guess which genres?
All right. My vote goes to horror and horror, mystery, and suspense. Let's see.
The answers were comedy and action and adventure dramas.
Okay.
So this shows, so red is the critics rating and the blue is the audience ratings. And you can see that for all the genres, the median critics rating was higher than the audience ratings. Critics liked these genres more, except for action and adventure dramas and comedies where the audience liked it more. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying, where the audiences are kind of like, was I entertained or not?
Yeah.
And critics are viewing it as like, I'm going to evaluate it as like a piece of art.
Okay.
So action movies and comedy movies probably have broader appeal, and they prioritize like entertainment and humor rather than like a deep message or societal commentary.
Yeah.
So the next analysis is how do ratings differ by content rating? So G, PG, PG-13, and rated R. So which content rating out of G, PG, PG-13, and rated R do you think gets the highest ratings?
That's hard. Should I just go with G? Because I assume most movies are rated G. Or most movies are probably rated PG, huh? I'll go with PG because that's the higher sample size. the least amount of
Okay, that's
discrepancy.
not really a real answer. You're trying to play stats games to figure it out, not just going with your heart. All right,
Dude.
okay.
Dude, if you're gonna fight stats, you gotta fight stats with stats, dude. That's what I learned
Yeah,
from talking to you, man.
yeah,
No, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right, well, you're wrong. Uh,
Oh shit, the stats.
G movies were rated the
G
highest,
unit.
and then there's a downward slope
Oh,
from as you get into more mature ratings. There's a steady downward slope for audience ratings, at least. So for the median ratings for G was 72%, PG it's 65, PG-13 it's 61, and then rated R is 57%.
interesting.
Yep.
But it rises up when it gets to R. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, for critics. For critics. So the red line is critics,
Yeah.
which it also steadily goes down, and then there's a slight bump for rated R movies. And I think a possible explanation for this is that G and PG rated films, they have content restrictions that limit the inclusion of material such as violence, language, and adult themes. And those restrictions might actually lead to more creative storytelling.
Oh, because more constraints
to be within those limits. Yeah,
the constraints you have to work with. Yeah.
yeah. So people might appreciate that extra creativity. And in the same vein, PG-13 and rated R movies, they have fewer restrictions, obviously, which can sometimes lead to an over-reliance on like mature content at the expense of story and character development.
Okay.
You know, like, I mean, I think we've all heard about like, oh, this movie had too much like senseless violence, or a lot of action, but it didn't mean anything.
You hear that? You hear that, Hollywood? You want to make money? Got to make G-rated movies.
Psych Paper is calling you out. All right.
Yeah, man.
Stick to kids movies.
We need Paddington 3. We need Paddington. We need Paddington goes
Paddington
to
4, 5, and 6.
Paddington goes to America. Paddington goes to Antarctica.
Yeah.
Paddington, Detective Pikachu. You do crossovers. Man, there's so many possibilities out there for the Paddington franchise.
The Conjuring 3 with Paddington Bear. And another possible explanation for this is that it could be like a difference in like viewer opinions and expectations of different movies. So like audiences for G-rated films are generally probably less critical and more forgiving. Possibly because these films are kind of viewed for like lighthearted entertainment or as family activities. And as the content rating becomes more mature, viewers might have higher expectations for like sophisticated content and storytelling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You're saying people may be more forgiving for kids' movies, possibly.
Yeah. How do ratings differ by release year? So how have audience ratings changed for movies across the 100 years that we have movie data for? You think movies have gotten better or worse?
Oh, back in my day, we had all these great movies, and now they have bang bang. I'm a superhero. Let's fuck on the screen. I want to say movies are getting much worse. No, I think movies have been getting better. I think there's so much content, there's so much good stuff out there. I think there's a positive.
Yeah, slope. You should have stayed in character. You were right. They've gotten worse.
God damn it! Why'd you put me in the closet, Joseph?
There he is.
Texas Joe. Man, look at that.
So what we're looking at is a graph of audience ratings and critics ratings, kind of over time. So for different movies, the year of original release date, they kind of peaked at around maybe 90% for critics, 80% for audience, maybe around 1940. And then there's a steady decline with the lowest right around 2000. Okay. And then there's a little bump toward the end in the last 5-10 years. It is steadily going up. But generally, what that means is that people view older movies as better. At least that's how the ratings show it.
Is it possible? Because Rotten Tomatoes wasn't a thing until, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s, I think. I can't remember. But is it possible that people like G-rated movies are maybe looking at older movies with more reverence, potentially? Or have like
Mm-hmm.
less skewed expectations than the newer movies, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So there are a couple things that this could mean. So yeah, like you said, like there could be like a nostalgia effect of like watching old movies and being like, oh, I grew up with this. Or maybe you have different expectations for older movies just because they were more limited with technology and like their just like filming capabilities. Um, or it could mean movies just have gotten worse generally.
Whoa.
Uh, it could mean that audiences have gotten more discerning. Maybe people are becoming more film literate and critical over the years. Another interesting thing, it could be that so streaming services became popular in like the mid 2000s, which would greatly increase the amount of alternatives that people could watch,
Sure.
potentially making people like more selective and critical of movies.
Because there's more
It could be a
content.
mix of Yep, it could be a mix of all of these explanations. There could be that nostalgia effect, or maybe the way we interpret the ratings systems have changed over time, just kind of overall. Like what's considered a 3-star or 5-star. Maybe that
Yeah.
criteria changes over time. So to quickly summarize the findings. So we saw the ratings for movies over the time since around like 1920 to 2000 2020. Ratings have generally declined. So I think there's a nostalgia effect. People are giving older movies higher ratings. G-rated movies are ranked higher. Comedy movies and action movies, audiences love because it's entertaining and humorous. Critics are poo-poo on that, and they like documentaries. Ugh. No, documentaries are fine. Documentaries are fine.
Christopher Cole, PhD, says documentaries are boring. I'd rather read a psychological research paper than watch this fucking movie.
No, I'd rather watch Superbad for the 5th time. And yeah, those are probably my biggest takeaways. If you're still listening, thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.